Well, I'm going to propose we start with at least the preliminaries of this. Do I have it? Can we call the meeting to order?
Yes.
And you all have the agenda that Jack sent to us.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and so we've just pretty much done the roll call, so much as I can tell.
And the quorum is present.
Huh?
A quorum is present.
Quorum is present. Okay, now the minutes from May 3rd, which Jack prepared for us, before we approve those, I thought those minutes were really, they had a number of significant statements in them. So even though we normally approve those, I thought that we ought to point out that a lot of the things that in the May are really going to be elaborated on, I hope, today and put in motion. Those were really excellent. That was an excellent set of minutes. So I'll call for a motion for approval.
Well, before you do that, we generally, it was decided some years ago that we not do what I call conversational minutes, but that we do decision minutes, so that the minutes merely record the outcomes. And we've had a request from Liz Tidyman of Washington to change the minutes so that instead of just recording the outcome, that a sentence be added to describe her input to that outcome. So that's something for the board to consider. If somebody wants to make a motion to change the minutes, that would be entertained at this time.
So moved.
Do I have a motion for approval?
I did. I said
Okay, a second.
Second the motion.
Any further discussion on the minutes?
Okay, I didn't hear who made the motion.
It was Kim Barley.
Oh, Kim Barley, okay.
Yeah.
And what was the motion?
Jack Matheson seconded.
Yeah, no, I recognize your voice.
What was the motion?
The motion was to approve the minutes as submitted without the requested modification, as I understand it.
Well, I thought if we have a second, then we open it for discussion, and I know Liz has a comment to make. Liz, you want to make that comment?
Were you inviting me to, this is Liz, were you inviting me to speak, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I am.
I just think it's important that the minutes show that there have been questions that weren't necessarily answered before the action was taken by the Maryland Corporation to dissolve the Florida Corporation. I'm going to go back on mute now. Thank you.
And what are you proposing, an amendment, Liz?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I sent Jack a request to add one sentence to the minutes of that item.
Yeah, there's a link to it in the agenda, but
Okay.
if you give me a second here, I'll show it to you. For those who may not have seen it. So,
Yeah, would you read it for us?
okay. Here it should be up on the screen for you.
I can't see it. Okay.
Okay, she requests that the last of the item on the dissolution of the Florida Corporation, we have supporting member Liz Tidyman read 6 questions of fact and sent the questions by email so they could be filed with the official copy of the minutes.
Okay.
That would be the modification.
Okay, so that's the proposed modification to the minutes that have now been approved and open for discussion. Any other discussion on that proposal? Any comments on that proposal? any movement to amend the minutes with that statement? Without a comment, without an approval of amendment, I think the minutes would stand as proposed. Could I call the motion and ask for the approval of the minutes?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for taking the time to read them and contribute.
Yeah, and thanks for the joining the meeting. Well, okay, let's move then to the financials. I guess without Mark, we're probably not going to have financials. But I want to make a comment about the financial situation. You all should have seen the reports that we have. And you'll note that even though we're not very much supporting a lot of the activities that are going on, the net asset position of NaCCRA is improving over the month, because over the year so far, mainly because we haven't really spent any money. That's a move in the right direction, I think. But with that, are there any other comments of any other members regarding current financial statements?
Well, I'd just comment that the financials have improved because I made a contribution to fund retroactive payments to Bennett, and Bennett has not yet taken those retroactive payments. So that will be pretty much a wash when that transaction is completed.
Okay. And with thanks to you, Jack, for doing that, but let's accept the financial, have a motion for accepting of the financial reports as given, as provided.
But I think we probably should defer that to hear from Mark. Could we just say in the absence of the treasurer, we deferred the item?
Yeah. Okay, we can defer that or not call for that vote. I wanted to go next to Walt Boyer, which is the fourth item on the agenda, conflict of interest policy, and I hope you've seen Jack's Walt's.
That's likely Walt. Walt often comes in with music.
A merry little Christmas.
Now, Walt,
next year, all our trouble.
Are you getting this that I am?
yeah, I'm trying to find where it's coming from.
I think it's Kim.
Yeah, it was Kim. Okay. So
All right. Yeah,
I muted Kim. And, all right.
Merry Christmas to you too.
So I just got an email from Walt Boyer 2 minutes ago.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why he's not on the call. I'm trying to, it's sort of an email, so I guess this is his report for the minutes. So Walt Boyer has sent us his report, so maybe he'll be absent. I don't know.
Okay, but in the item 4, his earlier email of June 3, he said the additional sentence added to the paragraph 3 of the conflict of interest meets the concerns expressed last meeting, and I recommend this policy be approved. I had a slightly different version vetted by a knowledgeable corporate tax, and his recommendations are included. So I would like to move, I guess, ask for the motion that we approve the revised conflict of interest statement as Walt had submitted it.
I so move. Ruth.
Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, so any discussion? Without discussion, what is the favor of the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so let's move that on as approved. the next item on the agenda is board development. And for those of you that participated in Baelish Crossroads, I think the performance of Ann McCabe at that event and in her own Maryland state organization has earned her a position on this board. And thankfully, Ann has accepted to the position to replace Robert Levine, who we lost earlier this year. So I would like at this point to note that Ann McCabe to the board and ask for ratification to fill the remaining term of Bob Levine of Arizona. So I would ask the board to confirm that appointment at this time.
I so move.
Second.
Ruth Walsh.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye, aye.
Congratulations, Ann. You're now a member of this august group.
Thank you. And could you remind me how many years Bob had on his term?
Bob had just started with me. He was one of the famous class of 2017. So,
No, I think to answer her, his term comes out next year. He's one of the short termers.
Okay.
But actually, the remaining, I didn't remember. Yeah, you're right. I think that is correct. Okay. Now the next thing is that we'd have two people that will change in their positions and Ann has also not only graciously accepted the position of on the board, but she's also accepted to take a role as an officer. And at this time, I would like to suggest that Bob, our current treasurer, which is Jack Cumming, is accepted to fill the president-elect job, and so I would like to elect Jack to that president-elect situation, freeing the secretarial position. With the nomination of Jack for the president-elect position, we would then appoint Ann McCabe. I'm sorry, elect Ann McCabe as the new secretary to replace Jack Cumming. So I'd like to move to take those actions, move Jack into the president-elect position, and to move Ann into the secretarial position, vice Jack. So can I have a motion on that as well?
Ms. Ruth Walsh will do that.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. A second?
Second.
Okay, was that Jean? Okay, so any discussion on this? Okay, so all in favor of this movement of Jack to president-elect and to the secretarial job, all in favor?
Aye, aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, congratulations, Jack. You are the
Yes,
thought
yes.
organization. Know that you'll do that job very, very well, as you've done throughout the time of knowing you. And I really welcome Ann McCabe in the secretarial job. And I think that from all I can see, Ann, you'll make a magnificent contribution to the NaCCRA. Thanks to both of you. Would either one of you like to say a word on this ascendancy?
Go ahead, Ann.
I'll be calling you, Jack, to help me how you get your documents on the screen and a few other items, but I'm writing right now just for practice.
Good. Okay, well, that's
So who's doing? Are you doing these minutes, or am I going to have to do these minutes, Jack?
no. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Happy to.
Well, congratulations to both of you. And really, I'd like to listen in on that phone call because I've never worked with like these agendas which have all the documents linked on the document to make it very easy to work with. It's a real contribution for me. I'd like to know how to do it myself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning.
Yeah, me too. And thank you again, Ann, for stepping forward. I really think it's going to be great. So let's move on to the seventh point on our agenda for the day, which is the membership and the rebate program. Now, there's a couple of supporting documents, if I can get my own notes put together here. I think the rebate document, which is the NaCCRA development plan, that's part of it. It's not all of it, but it is part of it. Is really important, and it's moved a little bit less less quickly than I'd hoped. But this is a very good membership development plan, and can you flip it up just a little bit? Our current situation, Jack. Can you move it up?
Yeah.
There we go. The CCRC, the basic organizational unit for both NaCCRA and for the state organizations. It's been really unique to me, and I wanted to just make these comments at the beginning because it's been an exciting month for me. I was able to visit with 4 different locations outside of my own during the month. And I can't think of a time, at least in my background, it was more important for NaCCRA to become a very robust membership organization. And I think this rebate proposal has that potential to build organizations. I think it because there's a great need for education. There is a great need for education. And if these rebates are generated, I wanted to use some words from Walt Boyer's input. Walt Boyer had some question on the rebate program, and he said, what's it to be used for? If we rebate to a community organization or a state organization, what's the rebate for? Well, for my money, and I wouldn't mind putting this into the documents that we put together, it's for building an organization of education for CCRC members, for advocacy, and for organization and leadership. If our basic building block is the community organization, the individual CCRC, these rebates can be used, I think, to build an effective organization that educates CCRC residents, provides opportunities for leadership development, provides opportunities for advocacy and education of our membership. So I just wanted to add that because I saw Walt's input to this, and I think he's got a good point. The rebates are rebates, but why do you give them? Well, I think we give them so we build a strong community and state organization. So with that comment, I'll throw this open for discussion. Are there any other comments that anybody would like to make on that?
Well, I just came, this is Ann.
Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
We had the NaCCRA state annual meeting on Saturday, and I was asked to speak about NaCCRA, and I was very happy to report how robust things are going. I did not discuss this proposal, but I got feedback, and I brought membership applications with me. And I found that it's more of a problem of awareness. Excuse me. And I'm thinking that, waiving the state association dues, that is not a hardship for associations that have a lot of members. In fact, I got feedback from some of the presidents of some of the chapters. We have 17 in Maryland, and there's close to 2,500 members in NaCCRA in Maryland, that they were, wanting to join up and pay their community association dues. So, I'm thinking that if there's already state organizations, at least for Maryland, it's not a hardship for the state to pay their $500.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, even, and the rebate even seems like a lot of money when, for our now when you're talking about community association members, we have 17 chapters that have over 50 members. So that's a lot of money going back when they're paying dues themselves. I mean, that would help any state, but you know, I think for startup states versus established state associations, it just seems like a lot of money to go back when we're so poor. NaCCRA.
Okay, did you have any thoughts on how that might be remedied?
No, just maybe reducing the amount, or you're not waiving the entire fee, or just reducing the fee as incentives.
Well, I had, Walt started me thinking about this too with his commentary in his earlier note. And I thought, you know, the rebate could be set aside for development. We could create the rebate without actually shipping it back, except on request. If an organization felt the need to conduct some educational events at the community level, state level, the rebate could be used for that. And perhaps we could administer the rebate in a way that didn't necessarily feel it was necessary, but did throw money where we could use it for further development of NaCCRA. So I don't have a solution for that, but I got to say some of the commentary that I've received started me to think about that.
Well, I think just in my short time, I'm trying to start up a chapter at my own community. You know, 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And it seems like what I'm struggling with, even though I've done association work, is I need, you know, how to set up the membership roster. You know, do I use the spreadsheet database?
Yeah.
What, you know, guidelines for setting up a chapter or setting up the community association. Seems like that would be more valuable to grow state membership and NaCCRA than sending money back. If you don't know what you're supposed to do, then you're not too sure what to do with the money.
Okay, let me speak to that. You may not have seen the draft of the membership development guide, so I'll be sure to get that to you. It was attached to the agenda for one of the recent board meetings, but not everybody clicked through. So I'll make sure that you are involved in that. As I read the motion today, all it does is to authorize Basil to move forward and flesh this out. So this is just an enabling motion to get this going, so it doesn't just drift from board meeting to board meeting without any action.
Well, that sounds good to me.
Yes.
Can I put my 2 cents in? I just don't favor the rebate. I mean, I got to hear more reasons why we need to give money back than to keep it. So I would not be in favor of voting for rebates.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not in favor of a rebate.
Okay, well, the model for the rebate is that when Bennett used rebates in Florida, he built the membership from 700 to 13,000. When Bennett tried to build membership in NaCCRA 3 years ago, we got no members, and there was no rebate. So, but that's a question for this committee. We need a group of thinkers who put this in depth. It doesn't really work well at this level. So I think the motion would say that this be delegated to Basil and a committee of business-minded people to put together to work with Bennett to find out what would work to build our membership up as he built FlightGround.
Yeah, let me address that, because I don't think we should try to solve this problem at the board meeting, but we should identify conditions and opinions on this. But we do have a membership committee, And this would enable the membership committee consisting of myself, and I think Jack Snyder, the person from Illinois, will participate in that. Mark, our treasurer, needs to be part of that. Jack needs to be part of that, and others can join. But the rebate can be a source of money of creating community and state organizations that promote greater voice for CCRC's residents. I've covered that a little bit already. I think that when we, and this committee will bring a proposal to the board shortly, that will, you can vote up or down on, because it's not, it's not the membership committee job to do anything except give you an opinion and a recommendation. I think we have to grow the number of individual members. We know that.
Well, I don't think anybody disagrees with growing the membership.
Well, let me finish this, because I think it's a big job, and I'm trying to stage for expectations of what the membership committee is able to bring forth. We're trying to grow individual memberships and the revenues with them, and at a rate that sustains an infrastructure. And that says something about our relationship with partners, and that has to be factored into this issue as well. Right now, we buy very stuff from partners, and as compared to, for example, that gets a very robust kind of a bill of materials from them. The next point I want to point out is that we have some marketplace advantages, where this is also going to be tied to two-tiered dues, and we'll talk about a little later on when Ruth about the New Orleans, is that I think we really need to consult with our members on this, and we're going to call for a Congress in association with New Orleans, not just people that can attend, but a call for papers that would provide input so that we can act based on not just our own views of things, but basically what our members might tell us. So I really see this project. I don't think you're going to get anything very, in the next month or so from me. But I think if we develop this growth in membership, and we keep the option of rebates available to us, and we might have to draw some structure around how they're used and what they're there for. But we certainly need capability, and Jack brought up the issue of how to develop membership organizations. Kim Barley will tell you we've had a pretty good example in place, and the only reason we did it at our own CCRC, the reason we did it was to try to get firsthand knowledge of what's sellable and what happened, and we produced over 100 members there. And Gene Hurley, that was one of your questions. One of your inputs to me was how did that happen at Village on the Green? How did we get those 100 plus? We got it because we went and talked to individuals, and we developed a little package that was, what are we going to tell them? Why should they join NaCCRA? What's the advantages? And it took, meetings of about 25 people, and we did generate those memberships, but it also requires a change. So there's a lot of pieces to this, and right now we're not trying to decide the value of rebates or the not value of rebates. We're trying to put together a program, a proposal for this board that represents C, and which we can grow a membership number that will sustain the organization. And that's where we're weakest right now. We can't keep going with 2,100 members. That's the issue. And so I'd like you not to judge rebate or no right now. I'd just like to solicit your inputs. I mean, you're board members, so really appreciate the comments that you make. But right now, and if you'd like to join the committee, give me a call, and we'll put you on there. But I see it as a pretty substantial project to come up with a proposal that will work in our entire organization.
Thank you.
Ruth here for a question. Do you have a packet or something of the proposals that you came up with for your group, so
Well,
we can see how, who, what, when, where, why, or how you worked it?
Yeah, in fact, I'd be glad to share it with you because we tried to project it to another CCRC, another LifeSpace. We're part of the LifeSpace communities thing, so we sent it to the other ones in Florida, and we sent them because we just talked about membership information. Well, partners will provide any NaCCRA official, any community or state organization with retrievals against their zip codes. So it's easy. For example, at Village on the Green, we monitor monthly who the NaCCRA members are in our organization, and we don't create it. We just ask partners for that retrieval. So
Right.
things like this are possible, but we don't really have our arms around it. We don't have a heart. I'm really hopeful that Village on the Green unit can produce that at least the basic framework for such a document.
Good.
That's
Sounds wonderful. Yep.
I would just,
We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I would just note that all Basil is asking for here is the authority to move forward expeditiously. And I believe that I heard Ann Mackay indicate support for that approach, and Ruth seconded it. So I think we should just vote on the proposed motion.
Well, now that I'm an official board member, in light of Basil's overview and explanation, I move the adoption of the proposed motion as written in the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I had Ruth and was having seconds.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
thank you, Jack. I'd forgotten that. You just told me. Okay, any further discussion? Then let's vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
We're voting on the motion, not the corollary motion.
Yeah, this is just the first motion. And moreover, I would suggest that we get Washington. Washington State has been our most successful membership development model, and we don't want to lose them. So if you put that committee together, I think if you can have a presentation from Washington State, that would be important.
Yeah, we're only talking at this point to the proposed motion, the one that Jack pointed out.
Yep.
So let's take the vote on that. Do I need a roll call vote? How many are opposed? Can I hear a voice, Nicole?
Aye.
Kim Barley is opposed. Did I get that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Kim Barley opposed. Okay.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's approved. That's approved. Now, the next thing on the agenda is the corollary motion, which obviously will, and I'm going to go ahead and read this because it's fairly important. The board further agrees to an increase in the dues for the individual member or supporting member of $30 per year with a $10 reduction for those individuals or supporting members providing a valid current email address and agreeing to paperless delivery of Lifeline and other NaCCRA materials. The lifetime dues will be 10 times the annual dues. These changes in dues to take effect as soon as they can be practically implemented. Now this in effect, if I read it correctly, implements a two-tiered system, and two-tiered structure, and it's basically based on whether you accept electronic delivery of communications, such as, and primarily that's Lifeline. So this is worth some dialogue here, and I'd like to open that to discussion, but we really need the motion to be approved and seconded before we discuss it. So I'd like to ask for that motion at this point.
That's Ruth Walsh. I so move.
Okay, do I have a second of that?
I'll second it. Usually Walt Boyer would second, but he's not.
Yeah.
Hey, not here. Okay.
So we move it forward.
Okay, so let's open it to discussion. That's what this is all about.
The last page, 12, has a membership application. And it's going to have to be, if we move this motion forward, it's going to have to be revised by somebody to show that people who pay $30 a year will get a $10 reduction if they get a paperless copy of Lifeline, all of which is very complicated on a membership application form. People who are in favor of the motion need to go to the form and make up a new form which shows what it is that they propose.
Well, that's fair enough.
Well, would it make more sense to phrase it so that it's $30 a year if you receive a printed copy, and it's $20 a year if you receive an email copy, rather than talking about reduction?
And the current members who are only paying $20 a year and are getting mailed copies, they'll continue to get a mailed copy until we implement the new system, and then only the new members who come in under the new system will be required to get a mailed copy if they pay $20 a year. So we have old members and new members we have to consider here.
For veteran members.
The other factor that I think is fairly important to us is that the cost differential between the delivery of a printed copy at 4 copies per year and not 4 copies of the Lifeline printed and 4 copies digital is closer to $5 than $3.
I challenge that number.
Okay, all right. Okay, but my point is that whatever it is, I have no problem with whatever the amount, whatever the correct amount is, because we have some other things in the mix. But I think it should be based on our treasurer looking at that differential, so that we have a component of that.
I agree with that. And thank you, Ron. Ron just masked his window. That was very interesting.
He did what?
Ron Whalen just masked his window so that it doesn't glare. And it wasn't
lighting is
glaring
really not
before,
good
Ron,
here,
but
yeah.
You know, I've learned
I
that.
thought I would try to reduce the background. Photographer's first choice, you keep, don't take your picture into a bright light, which we're doing here. So I'll try to make things work a little better. Just trying to I haven't gotten my computer audio to work, so I did dial in on the second line. Sorry, guys.
Right.
I'm learning.
As long as it works.
Yeah.
You got a much better picture, Ron. You look better.
But I'm back. Yeah, actually, I get a little bit more brightness too this way, with it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about this. Any other commentary on this? It would take some time to put this into motion if we approve it. Well, let's call the vote then. And I think I will go down through the roll because it would be useful. I think we'll have differences on this. Walt's not with us. Kim Barley, yay or nay? Kim?
I'm here, I'm listening, and I've only been listening in this part because I don't have an absolute position on it yet.
What do you want to do, abstain or vote?
I would like to make a motion that to approval of this for the purpose of getting a vote.
Okay, so that's a yes.
That's what we're calling for.
What we're doing.
That's it.
Anyway, I made the motion.
Okay. We record that as a yes vote on the motion that's on the table.
All right. Jack, how are you?
I'll vote yes.
All right.
Well, wait a minute, before we vote on this, I suggest that we're talking about the corollary motion.
Yeah, we are talking about the corollary motion. The other one's already
Let's say
passed.
the board further agrees to authorize the president to study an increase in the dues. Let's put authorize the president to study this, to implement it.
Well, there's a motion on the floor now.
So vote the motion.
Yeah, we're voting right now the motion. I guess you would vote against it then?
Yes, I'm opposed.
You're opposed, okay? Okay, let's go then to Jack Matheson.
Yes,
Yes,
concurring.
okay. Okay, let's go to Ruth.
Yes,
Okay, Mark is out. And so we called Ruth and you said yes. Do we have any other votes?
No, because we have Mark.
It's coming.
Mark doesn't get a vote anyway. But
Yeah, right. he did not.
Bob Nicholson and Walt Boyle are absent.
Well,
Do I get to vote?
we
I
have,
vote
we have
yes.
four, we have
Oh,
four.
yeah, Ann gets a vote. I'm sorry. Working off my old stationary list, Ann.
Yeah, I didn't get down to Ann yet. How about you, Ann? How do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, so this motion has been approved. And it will be back to bring this into implementation, whatever implementation means.
Well, I think in effect what Gene's modification is in effect the sense of the board at this point.
Yeah, I do too. The motion in the last sentence reads, these changes in dues is to take effect as soon as they can be practically implemented. So that means working through all the changes that we have to make. And I think that is what Gene was talking about. The application forms, how does that change? When can we make the change? What is the differential? And getting Mark this is really important as well. There's a lot of practicalities to implementation, but for now, the board has voted to increase our dues to $30 per year. Is that correct?
Well, it's, for what you have now. It's no increase for those people who accept electronic. They would then get an electronic copy instead of a printed copy. And some CCRCs may want to have local distribution of Lifeline, and they have no increase.
Yeah, and then we have to see what the are. So right now it has passed. And I guess that's agreement. Okay.
So in the next slide, I want the registration form to say $30, not $20 anymore.
Yes,
That's something we can discuss.
a lot of changes that'll have to be made, and there's no timeline in that recommendation. What there is a recommendation to implement it to some extent.
But Basil, I noticed that Dan Seeger is looking very thoughtful and reflective, and I wonder if we couldn't just hear what his reflection is, because he's been involved with this group for a long time. I'm just curious.
All right. Fine.
Jack, I don't, thank you for asking, but I don't really have an opinion on most of the items on the agenda because I haven't been following closely enough. I thought I'd sit in just to catch up. In item 9, which is really the reason I sort of decided to, I don't have anything to say about it, though. I'm just glad to be listening. Thank you very much for, I didn't expect to be using up bandwidth for the picture. I just followed the instructions.
Well, I'm glad that it's working. Okay.
Okay. So we can go on to the communications electronics, the communications editorial board with Ruth Walsh. And Ruth, you want to pick up on that?
Yes, I do. I noticed that the appointment of the communications editorial board, there would be Basil and Walsh as well as to be kind of co-chair, I guess. But it's certainly very essential that NaCCRA take a look at all of our communication vehicles and initiate a protocol that would result in professional editing of all of our publications. It's just a must that there be consistency in action and all of the products consistent and constant, and the result of a team effort that would include the following. And now I don't know if there's anybody that wanted to add other people. Can you all hear? But I wanted to nominate or to ask if it would be possible to include Jack Cumming on that committee, Dean Hurley in response to the Lifeline, Martha Marks, who works with the website, Mark Berkowitz, who's the treasurer, Kim Barkley, who works with the Associates and Partners in Association Management, and so I'm sure would be helpful in membership development planning. Also wanted to mention the name of Marlene Varner, who was the editor for Lifeline for a very long period of time, and she had such expertise that I would like to include her on this panel as well. For if we are going to grow, and it's very important that we do, we've just got to use communication vehicles to track our progress and do it well. So we just need to polish, we need to be consistent, we need to speak as one, and so I'm hoping that will be some of the goals of this committee and the editorial board. Because if we're going to grow, and we must grow, it's just crucial that we work to proceed to work as one. And so that's kind of my plea, and let's see how you all feel.
Okay. So those are the board members. Would you go down through that list again of names that would serve on that board?
Yes, I will. For the NaCCRA publications, Jack Cumming. A membership of the editorial board, in addition, would have Jean Hurley, who's editor of the Lifeline, Martha Marks with the websites, Jack again with the active aging sheet that he puts out that's so valuable, Mark Berkowitz, who is their treasurer, Kim Barkley and associates from Partners in Association Management, and Marlene Varner.
Okay, Marlene Varner was the name I didn't have. I think that's an excellent, Ruth and I had dialogue, and I think that's an excellent choice, but we can add to that group. It seems like this communication thing has got some real challenges in front of us. And they need to be, I think, worked forward to the organization. Branding is, to me, at the front of this listing. And Mark Merowitz, I would call because he points out that the marketing plan it really to what we're doing and to the presentation of a budget in NaCCRA. And right now we have some differences in the way in which we're branding and identifying NaCCRA stuff and focusing NaCCRA information. I think our common body of knowledge is largely on Jack's active aging site. And I don't know why that really isn't part of the NaCCRA.com or the NaCCRA presence. And maybe that's a better one, because our web presence should be consistent to anybody that's interested in NaCCRA. I also think this group is going to have to deal with the infrastructure's role, the partner's role, our newsletter. I think we're going to have this is also part and parcel of looking at our invoicing. Some of us have had the opportunity in the last few days to look at a version of the document with which we bill our members. And of course, that billing is one of our communications to them. How well that's done makes a big difference into our presenting ourselves to members. And so I could go on, but I think that the integration somehow of the various offerings of NaCCRA to its constituency and to the people that we hope to change their minds about, you know, the people we try to influence, is really important. So I really think, and I hate to belabor it, but I really think that the parallel track to membership growth is this particular committee, this communications editorial. It's one thing to say we need to grow and offer rebates and do packages to bring membership in, but the question is, well, how does the organization face its world, both its own members and the constituency? So this board to me is a really important. I encourage any of you that have interest and have capabilities to involve yourself in it, because we'll be bringing things back. And as Ruth is going to also talk about this Congress that I hope to have we hope to have with in New Orleans, I think will also offer insights that we haven't fully had before.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be a good one.
Any other comments for Ruth?
I think it's a great idea, Ruth, and we do need to be branded across all areas of communication.
Yeah, as I was thinking about it, it would be so wonderful if we all had a chance to get together as one. So perhaps when we do get to New Orleans, we could have a real head-to-head session and try to square away a lot of things that we have questions about or comments about, and the how-to. So I'm just looking forward to working together to make this all work.
Yeah, Ruth, I think you'll find that time in New Orleans may be tight, but
I know it will be.
Once you've got the video running, I think you'll find that having this video linking gives a personal feel that gets you the same thing that you're looking for with the in-person meetings.
Good. Thank you, Jack. Thank you for very many things. I really appreciate it.
So now, can we consider we have an appointment of a communications editorial board? Any other commentary on that?
Well, I don't know. Have they all accepted?
What? Oh, excuse
Have
me.
they all accepted?
No, I have not asked. I wanted to try it out on the board before I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just, this is terrible to say, but I was really assuming that they would accept.
Mm-hmm.
I am hopeful they will.
So Ruth will be the chair, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Ruth and Basil,
Yeah. Okay.
co-chair.
Okay.
Well, the communications editorial board also have potential membership at a member at large. We've got an outstanding communications person here at Sunnyside, and Don Oxley. He edits our Sunnyside Times, but has set up a membership within the larger community, enlisting over 100 members. And he would, I think, be a wonderful person to be if not a member, an ex officio member of the communications editorial board.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll look into that one.
Okay, Ruth, you got the name and Jack's comment.
Yeah, I'll get that from you, Jack.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Okay. So, advocacy positions, Mr. Jack.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm supposed to speak this. All right. We've been working for some years on strengthening the financial security of NaCCRA. Dan Siegel, for example, and influenced by Ruth Heidemann, actually, recognized that when we pay entrance fees, in effect, we become financiers. But that's not what we're sold on. And so we've been trying to get financial security to avoid the kinds of things that are going on now in Florida, where the residents are losing their entrance fee investments due to machinations by the minority of providers who are scrupulous. Recently, that activity, I'm not at liberty to say how we know this, but that activity has come to the leading age has taken notice of it and is forming a provider group to oppose efforts to have financial security. So the two things that they oppose are, first, that a provider have a positive balance sheet, and second, they're opposing that entrance fees have financial guarantees like those for bank deposits, insurance policies, stock brokerage accounts, and pension benefits. That's the initial, and they're excluding us from explaining why we think these things would be beneficial. So this would put us on record as favoring security for residents. And we hope that the providers will change their minds and join with us to serve the customers, their customers. But this will just give us the strength of being on record on those two items. So there are two positions there. The third one, position on healthcare, is to recognize something that keeps coming up, boiling up from our membership. They want NaCCRA to have a position on healthcare, and they want healthcare to be approached in a nonpartisan way. Heretofore, we've had one party doing the Affordable Care Act. Now we've got the other party saying that's no good, we've got to repeal. Well, that's chaos for America. And so we're trying to put something together that could represent a national interest and not just partisan issue. But we're not going to be a force there. That's just responding to our members and to what they've asked us to address. So we've got these three things. One, providers should have a positive balance if they're accepting entrance fees, because otherwise they're using entrance fees not for the purpose of what they promise in their contracts, but to sustain the organization and the employment of executives, and that's not what we believe it should be.
Absolutely.
We're proposing a mechanism that would guarantee the interests of residents even when providers run the organization into the ground, as has been happening with increasing frequency. So that's what these three positions are.
And I need to have, well, if you, I don't think you wrote that out, but I will try to transcribe what you just said so I can have that for my record.
He has, Jack has put out emails that identify those points, and maybe those.
Yeah, I have one set. Yes.
Yeah.
And Dan indicated that he wanted to talk on this point, or that you wanted to listen.
I want to listen. I do. I mean, if I can express an opinion, which doesn't count for anything since I'm a mere member, but I do hope the board will see their way forward to accepting these proposals.
Okay, well, I think that's important. Thank you, Dan.
And I wanted to read as well, Dan, the Walt's input to this, because he did, while he's not on the call, he did provide us a bit of a input to item 9. He said, again, I recommend the proposed NaCCRA advocacy positions be improved as living documents subject to updating as lessons are learned through experience, new circumstances and situations appear. Their goals will not be achieved rapidly or easily, in my opinion, are certainly laudable and form a basis for our advocacy programs moving forward. At a meeting I attended earlier this year, Steve Johnson of the North Carolina Department of Insurance indicated his considering changes to the NC state statutes governing CCRCs. I understand Florida's in the midst of potential change. He goes on and quotes some of that. These NaCCRA, and I'll drop down to the bottom of it, and says these NaCCRA advocacy positions take on new and added importance as we enter a period of CCRC-related legislation and potential oversight. Many of the legislative changes will come at the state level. NaCCRA should also work to ensure that our desired changes occur uniformly in all states. So he carves a role at the national level as well, but saying that state rules, regulations, will be the primary point of implementation. I thought Walt's comments were also useful. And I think you have a copy of that, Ann. Yeah, you did.
Okay. I think I see Walt is technically on the call, so now, but it is pictures in there.
Yeah.
Walt, can you hear us?
No, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
That's fine. I'm trying to figure out why my video isn't working.
Well, I just spoke for you. I hope I didn't misspeak.
Very well, I think.
Yeah.
I have a camera blocker on my computer, which I've turned off. And it's you should be able to see my video, but I obviously I'm broadcasting it.
Well, we can hear you.
All right.
Do you have anything to add, Walt?
There I am. Okay. I finally figured it out.
Good.
Jack asked if you had anything to add, Walt. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think you represent my opinion very strongly.
Okay. Well, I was just reading. Okay. Well, I guess at that point we are at the point of approval of advocacy positions. This is in your agenda. Requires a 2/3 majority of the board, and adoption of such a position by the board merely authorizes the exposure of a position to the public, including leading age, and to invite dialogue consistent with NaCCRA educational missions. So I think it's important we all understand just what we're doing. We're really, first of all, we got to vote 2/3 of, I guess, the quorum we have to do this, and that it authorizes the exposure of this position. Do I have that right, Jack? Have I got that lined up okay?
That's the way that's the way our policy is. When I wrote this note here, because I was interpreting the policy, I think there's actual strength in that, because I think there's greater strength in a citizen movement, which we're really representing here, than there is in special interest lobbying. I think we're stronger if we're not seen as a special interest group. So as I wrote it, I thought, well, that's interesting, but I think there's strength in this approach. But is there any opposition to any of these positions?
No. You need a move?
I guess we should.
A motion to approve?
We do, and then we'll take a vote. We need a motion, a second, and then we've had kind of the discussion in reverse order, but that's fine.
Well, I move it in effect, and I think Walt in effect seconded the motion. So that's the way I interpret it. Is that okay with you, Walt?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Could I would like to speak to this?
Sure.
I think that this represents, visionary statements that we can use as it's laid out in the proposal as educational documents, and we have something to speak to. And, Leading Age, they have their new vision of America freed from ageism. Well, I kind of see these advocacy positions along the same line. It's not going to happen overnight. It may never happen but we have something to work toward. We know where the line in the sand is. This is what we want eventually. And it gives us lots of talking points for a lot of people.
Great. And they are best practices concepts, and that's crucial.
Any other commentary? Let's call the vote then, if not. I'm going to ask, is there any opposition to begin with? Things that work best. Is there any opposition to voting yay on this motion? So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
Good show.
Okay, so let's go down to the status and scope of the work with partners. I don't know that I have anything to add to that at this point, except I did bring out that I found partners really very helpful in our individual efforts. I pointed out how they were to give us at Village on the Green retrievals against our zip code, for example, which basically is just our membership. And so we were able to track that monthly and get it out to this team that includes Kim Barley, so he'll be very familiar with that. Send that out every month to the team to see who our members are. But I found that on many occasions. And so I don't want to say any more at this point about that, except my few months' experience with partners has been very positive.
Absolutely.
You know, basically, that Village on the Green.
Yeah.
I know that in every meeting that we have, that we stress again, building the membership. And we stress to the members of the committee, everyone has to have a goal to make sure we get at least one more new member every time we turn around. And I think that's been part of the success here is the fact that we keep pushing to boards and committees and the people of the merits of belonging to NaCCRA.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Any other commentary? I'm going to close that one off then as they work with the partners. Do you have anything on that, Jack, with your?
I don't. I think it's a work of. There is one thing. We gave partners a notice with a time period. We need to extend that time period. We should, as a formal matter, get Bennett's on that. I just thought of that.
Do we need board action on that, Jack?
We don't need board action. We just need it on our checklist.
Okay. State presidents have been liaison. I'm not going to speak to that because most of what we're doing at the state level will I think, come to fruition at the event in New Orleans, the Congress, and I'll talk to that just a little bit later. Okay, report of fundraising, Jack.
Yeah, I guess I thought we ought to have a chair for this, so I'm filling in, but there must be somebody who'd be better qualified. So I just took it because nobody else did. But we want to continue this on, and we've been thinking of things that we might do, and we've listed some of them here. I think that's just a report to be received. We're eager to get your help if somebody wants to pick up the mantle of driving the fundraising. I hope they will. Otherwise, if nobody else wants to do it, I'll do it.
Okay, I think that's good that you picked that up. I do have a bit of experience with scholarship boards, given what we do here at Village on the Green, and so I would tell you that I'll give you some insight into my experience with the scholarship boards and their value, and then this I'll get that input to that effort.
Yeah, we've also talked about Joe Hara. If he's interested in taking a lead role here, that would be a big help.
I'd like to run through the items that we've got 2 minutes next to the remainder of the schedule. And then I'd like to,
Hello?
I'd like to give Jean Hurley a shot at item 22. And then I'd like for Ruth and I to tell you a little bit about what we're planning for New Orleans and to give you an option to impact those plans before they get locked in. So capital adequacy, I think that will simply await Mark. If anybody has any objection to moving on, I'll listen. Item 14, report of the Communications Committee. Jack, I think we've kind of covered that as we talked about communications editorial. Membership development, we've talked about pretty well. Fellowship Committee, Jack Matheson. Jack, you got anything? Are you with me, Jack?
Yes, on the committee has found Kate Falk doing a remarkable job in contacting all new residents of Ingleside at Rock Creek, and Beth High at Westminster at Lake Ridge has agreed to do the same. And of course, Bob Nicholson, as a member of this committee, is doing much in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. Any questions for Jack? Thank you very much, Jack. Let's go to Congressional Liaison, Walt.
Yeah, there remains a considerable uncertainty over legislation affecting national residents. As many of you know, the state leadership is considering a complete rewrite of the American Health Care Act from scratch. Budget proposals are receiving criticism from both parties. The proposed tax legislation may see changes to attain even limited Democratic support. And the most active advocates are supporting actions that would materially increase federal expenditures, while conservatives move for the budgetary changes or reductions, but we don't know what those things are finally going to come out to be. There are two bills, Improving Access to Medicare Coverage Act of 2017, House Bill 1421 and Senate Bill 568, which eliminate the 3-day rule for hospital stays under observation, allowing people listed to be eligible for post-plus care under Medicare. These bills are important in Maryland and North Carolina, and they other states as well. I suggest NaCCRA should opt in its state president's program to encourage cooperative interchanges on this issue among interested states. There's a lot of conversation on the internet about Medicare and Medicaid regulation from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid and support for low-income senior housing. Local CCOs have spoken, and one specifically to me, to concerns about Medicaid regulation. I'm going to ask if the Joint Task Force can ask leading aides to provide answers to two questions which could help to scope our future recommendations. First is, how many CCRCs in the United States and by state if available include an option for affordable senior housing? And how many CCRs in the U.S. again by state if available participate in Medicare, Medicaid, or both? Jack, if you don't mind taking that on, I think it would be very helpful to us.
Well, I think you could, why don't you just call Steve Mogg and ask him? I think that's separate from the Joint Task Force. The Joint Task Force is it brings in the provider members and all, and I think those questions are fact, and Steve Mogg should have them at his fingertips. So I suggest you just pick up the phone and call Steve.
Okay, if you all right with you, I will. I just didn't want to interfere with your Joint Task Force. If it's
no interference.
That sounds like information that would be useful to us. That set of questions. Work. Okay. Anything else, Walt?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you. Report on uniform state regulation, Jack. Anything?
Well, I think we just made progress by taking a position that will give us influence. Florida seems to be taking the lead, and NaCCRA is working closely with the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation, I think in a way that FLICRA has not been. The same thing is true in California. They're looking to Florida for the leadership, but we've had discussions there. So I think and then Walt has mentioned that Steve Johnson in North Carolina is also looking to these other states. So I think that may finally get us on the agenda of the older Americans task force of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. But this is a long-term thing, and there's no particular progress month to month. We just have to wait for others to respond.
And anything on the joint task force, Jack?
Well, I think we could get some help from Washington State. Washington State has been very effective in making us aware of the fact that we need, in our administrative office as well as in our board deliberations, to cross our T's and dot our I's. So I think if we could, the position there is open, but I'm hoping that somebody may come forward, possibly from Washington State, or that they may have a suggestion for that.
Lifeline, Jean?
Yes. Lifeline will be coming out. The July, August, and September issue will cover the Leading Age Convention in New Orleans. And the information from Leading Age will be coming out in July. So I'm going to put a deadline for information on this third quarterly issue for Friday, July the 7th, hoping that by that time Leading Age will also have information on their main programs. So anybody who has anything to submit should submit it by July the 7th. I will be putting a notice in this next issue that a NaCCRA meeting of members will be held on Saturday, the 28th of October, and Sunday, the 29th of October, 2017. So we'll have a large page urging people to come to this general meeting of members.
That leads me into kind of my closing remarks, which I'd like Ruth to join me in, because we've gone through kind of a couple of iterations. I've talked to Jack about this, but I really wanted the opportunity to talk to you, the board members, about the upcoming New Orleans event. And we haven't forgotten that the stay is going to be expensive, but we're probably going to have to wait to see what kind of rooms is able to commandeer in order to see what that price might be. I struck out with my Marriott friend. He said,
you did?
yeah, he have a couple family and friends, but a couple's probably it. I could get a block of 5 for each room, but I did pursue that. But I want to talk to the group right now, not about that, but about what are we going to accomplish for those of us that invest in going to New Orleans. What do we want to get out of it? And here's the kind of the going in position with the authorization to Ruth to correct me if I screw up something.
I will.
I spent some time trying to figure this out. We would start with a board meeting in the morning, set it at 10 o'clock, at least tentatively, because some of you are coming from a close distance, and if you can get there, and if you're coming from the West Coast, you got an overnight you need to catch up with. You got a 3-hour time change, and I'm dealing with that right now. in person. So the point is, I don't think we should start any official thing before 10 o'clock in the morning, just in favor of people that come to work. But the board meetings.
Just urge people like for coffee or something at 9:30 so we can assemble the multitude. So we're not going to be waiting at 10 o'clock when we should be getting underway.
Yes, that's right. But the official thing would start at 10. And then in the afternoon, after a lunch.
And the other thing, I'm just going to horn in right here. I have already talked with people from Leading Age, and they will provide a luncheon for us, like little sandwiches or something of that sort, so we can eat right there.
Okay, and that'll give us a working lunch.
Yes.
Noon. This is what's different and what I'd like to talk to the board about. I'm suggesting that we might want to convene what I'm going to call a Congress of state and community organizations. We've got 10 organizations. We've got 43 community organizations. Now, I know we're not going to get 53 people at this event, but we can get input from 53 people potentially by crafting an invitation to submit commentary from each community organization, each state organization, addressing things that are important to these constituencies that we're trying to serve. Like, what can we provide for CCRC members? Who can serve as a champion at your location? Do you have leadership that is emerging at such and such a location, a community organization? What's needed in terms of guidelines, model implementation, packages like we've talked about today? What is my working document if I want to try to get a viable chapter working at a particular location? Who are the leaders and where can they serve? Who is this leadership base? We know a few names, but we don't know nearly as many. There's got to be a couple hundred people out there that could serve in a leadership position. I'm not thinking of a lot of data. In fact, I'm thinking of maybe 5 key questions and limiting the response to those 3 questions with a 1-page input, just bullets, paragraph, whatever they're comfortable with. But getting insight from our various state and community organizations. If that were to happen, then we would have to have an invitation, I think, going out around the 1st of July, and telling our various state and community organizations that this is happening. We might even want to include email attention to the individual members and let them know that we're soliciting input, and that we would ask for those papers to be submitted perhaps by the end of September or sometime in September, so they could be codified and redistributed to people. We don't just need to look at them the first time when we get to New Orleans, but if a life space unit somewhere has something to say, I would like to see it before. I think that perhaps by pulling this group together, we can glean some goals and objectives that ought to be part of what we're presenting to people. What are those educational needs? We all say to each other that when we move to a CCRC, maybe we understood 10 to 20% of what we should understand. Now, what do we do to close that gap between that 10 and 20% and the 100% that we probably needed to have? So I'm putting this out to you because I think the details can be worked out, but I'm kind of excited, to be frank, about the opportunity to engage the 2,000 people that we have there and get them excited about making the 2,000, 20,000. And this is just an idea, but as an output, what do we want to get out of it? What do we want to come away from that Congress with? Well, I think specific goals and objectives for this organization that resonate with CCRC residents. And so in a sentence, that's what I think this is all about. I'm going to stop at this point. Well, I'm going to stop after a point because I think that day, after this this event takes place, and maybe I don't know how we would structure it. It depends on what kind of input we get back from people. But then I think there's got to be a pause, and some maybe our individual leadership, maybe the board, take this and begin to say, okay, what did we hear? And then later in the day, I wonder if we could get a speaker for our evening meal that might talk to us about resident needs, or get somebody who can talk to us about what they feel are the needs of residents at CCRCs. I haven't worked that out in my mind, but I'd just like to stop here and let you know that thought process is being worked on now, and see what your reaction is. What's your response to such a suggestion?
I like that idea. I wonder if Marty Roach would be willing. You might be interested in coming, and she could be that supper speaker. Do you know Marty Roach?
I do
not. She has retired from her position.
I know, so that would free her perhaps to speak in that way and give her a reason to be there.
She probably wouldn't.
So that would be in the evening then, for the dinner fellowship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would hope it's a motivational thing. I would hope it's the sort of thing that says, go get a team.
Get a good shot in the arm.
Yeah.
I think Marty would be very motivational. Marty is she's very knowledgeable, and she wasn't totally free to have personal opinions because she was the chief regulator for the state of Maryland. But she is a person who's able to see both the practicalities and the dream of the continuum of care. That's why she comes to mind. She's a person on the caliber of Catherine Pearson. I know she's retired. She may want to stay retired, but so Susan Weiss would be another person who would be like that. But it would be nice to have somebody with that kind of vision who sees both sides.
Oh, I love Susan Weiss. Yeah. Yeah, Susan's wonderful.
I'd like to
so
hear.
If we did that, is there anything I had noted here? I wondered if there was anything we wanted to have reported on Saturday as well, financial our status or anything of that sort, or any strategic planning that we need to be thinking about, or just let that go.
Nope. In my view, what we could be doing by identifying potential goals and obligations of our constituents, that would be to a strategic planning. We wouldn't get it all done, obviously, in that afternoon, but it certainly would be input information.
Well, we'll think on that one. The problem is everybody's going to be trying to get settled in and try to figure out how we're going to best do this. So I just tried to figure out for myself how we might, do a time crunch here. And I don't know. You just need an extra day. That's all.
Well, I don't think we need.
And we don't have it.
Yeah, I don't think we need to wait for New Orleans. Mark, you can have a transactional budget, which is what we've had in the past, where you just say, well, whatever we did in the past, we'll just keep doing the same thing. Or you can have a strategic budget to fulfill a plan. And he's beginning to work with Bezos to develop a more strategic budget. And then that becomes your plan. So that work should be going on all the time. I'll have a board meeting. There'll be reports there. There'll certainly be a report on that, but there'll be some generative discussion. But I think that these are things that we have in the works all the way. Strategic moves today. That colors the future of the organization, how the organization is viewed.
Okay, the next thing that I wanted to I know I'm cutting this short, but I got to go to a 3:00 meeting. On Sunday, what we have done in the past is have a NaCCRA meeting. but it's open to everybody. And so maybe it would be possible to have a speaker at that time. And I was hoping that Katie Sloan, who is the new director of Leading Age, would speak at that time. So we need to figure a time crunch because luncheon has to be served at noon for all residents, and then we leave it precisely after you finish your luncheon to go to a 1 o'clock opening of the Leading Age, and that's the opening of the session. So we've got precious time, but only about 3 hours or so on Sunday morning to figure what we want to do. Are we ready? And what are the issues? And do we don't need any speakers, or how do you want to work that one?
Well, in the past, we've always gone to providers to be speakers, and we've never had a resident speaker. And so Basil, I've suggested to Basil, why don't we get a resident? You know, when we act like we can't come forward with speakers from our own ranks, we diminish our membership, and people who don't have our best interests always at heart. So I think it's one thing, we want to build good bridges with them, but I think we have people in our own midst who are people of talent, and I'm thinking of Joe Hara in particular, who could really help us set the tone that residents matter and residents should be listened to, and that residents should be governed.
See, that's actually a crucial issue. The reason that everybody's there for this conference is because of us. And sometimes the others get ignored. So, you know, to have somebody who is speaking, who is a resident, who could speak to all of the things that are so important to all of us, would be a good thought. And what's the name that you said, Jack?
Joe Hara, well, I'll let Basil tell you who Joe Hara is.
Joe Hara is a resident at our place. Joe is 26 years the CEO of Tupperware. And,
oh, really?
Yes, and he's got a lot of stature in the community, and he has really taken on support and made a contribution earlier this year. But he's been a confidant and a mentor for me for many years. Recently, he just sent a document. I don't know that he can really do this, but it's the kind of thing we need. And his pitch to the management of our provider is this: are you asking yourself when you sit down to a meeting, what does this do to enhance or promote your resident lifestyle? In other words, are you really in the business of doing things for your customer and your primary investor? And this as and I could almost see this give us, but I don't know if I can get him there. He's elderly and he's got a very ill wife at this point. Whether we could work with some other alternative, or we find some other alternative, but he is the kind of he has the kind of executive presence that allows him to really talk to the world.
Well, talk to him and see what we can work out. Yeah. If you would.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work out, there's a fellow at I think it's Riderwood in right outside D.C., who is a senior IBM. Lawyer's got a son who's a senior, he's Waterhouse. But there are people who can bring that resident perspective. The fact that there are talented people living in these communities. They're not all docile old folks who need to be humored by
you have it exactly correctly, and if I've not given you good English, it's because I'm sorry, but you're right. Residents are just not residents. They are people, and they have so much to offer. And to capitalize on that would be wonderful.
That's right.
Maybe the theme is really resident engagement rather than, you know, they've always been so worried about that we're satisfied on all these surveys, but now they need to engage us.
Absolutely.
That's it. You got it. That's exactly it.
Exactly.
And that's absolutely key. So you pursue that, will you, Basil, with your friend, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Okay.
You know, the other idea, rather than just a speaker, is set up some table talks like leading age that are responsible for whether.
The problem is the time crunch, and this is what is great, it's about causes me an ulcer. But because we really, our time is not going to be on our side because everybody's going to talk fast. So let's see how it looks before we, because the table discussions are wonderful, but they are going to prolong the time.
Well, I think on Sunday morning, I didn't get down to that level, but on Sunday morning, we really need to isolate a kind of a board recap, even though it's only a half-hour board recap of Saturday, and probably a response to that. So we'll have to come out with you. But at this meeting, I just really wanted to ask you what you feel. What are your inputs to this Congress idea? Do you have any downside?
Superior. Couldn't be better.
Okay, so the board, any opposition to moving out? Because this will be a little bit of work. We'll be asking our organizations to do a little bit of work too. So if we turn it on, I think we turn on some workload for all of us, because if we ask for this input, we're going to have to respond to the input and see what we want to do with it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I hope you're going to use the website as the vehicle to get, have the information.
Yes, I think it'll probably be on the website. I think it's got to be in Gene's document.
Yep.
It's got to be in everything we do, because this has to be a major push. And what we're trying to do is engage our constituents, as the first step.
And that's crucial. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Who has a dog? All right, that sounds good to me. We can work from there.
Okay, so if you have any inputs to what you've heard, I'm going to use that summary thing at the bottom to just tell you that if you want to participate, if you want to have ideas on what those questions ought to be for the state, and Ron Whalen, you could give me some hand on that. I'd really like to hear from you. Okay?
Okay.
Are there any other items that need to come to this board today?
One thing I just remind you, since you mentioned Ron Whalen, you had asked Ron Whalen to be on your membership committee.
Yeah, and I do have your name down, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be overlooked.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll try not to do that. Okay.
No, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So any other commentary? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for a very productive meeting, Basil.
Yeah, thank you all
Thank you.
your attention, and congratulations, Jack and Ann. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Yes.